came back from World War II, what had happened was people from Oklahoma and Tennessee who had never been out of the state, other states, Arkansas, they were sent through boot camp in San Diego and San Francisco and Fort Ord and all these bases. After the war was over, many of them didn't go home anymore. So it changed the chemistry of and logistics of America. It was the military and the GI Bill that actually changed it. And after World War II, Harry Truman put together what was called the Truman Commission. And the Truman Commission came up in 1948 with a report, and they said education is the way to the future, so there should be a college in driving distance of every American in every community. So the community college was born. Ventura, Oxnard, Moore Park, and all of the other 1,200 in the United States in driving distance of almost every American. So I wanted to say how significant all that was, and it's all part of this same story to me that I'm telling you. So we do a big program for veterans. As I understand it, there are 222 million veterans in the U.S., about 48,000 in Ventura County. There are some problems with unemployment and homelessness that we have to deal with. We have a Veterans Center in each college, and that logo is the new Veterans Caucus that I shied to post because he's the Vice Chancellor. I can get away with it for a while. But we're working on a Veterans Center at the state level, and this is the caucus for the state to try to serve the many veterans, and we're working with the Veterans Committee of the House, the House Committee on Veterans Affairs and everything to improve things, because the new GI Bill is doing the same thing that the old GI Bill did when you came back after World War II. And it's changing the character of America, and it's giving opportunity to a lot of people. So I'm not going to labor that. That's just a photograph of some of our students in the Veterans Centers of the 3 colleges, and I wanted to connect that to the Norton Sound because I'm the Chancellor. And I was a seaman. So I agree, somebody said that, and this is Ira. Ira is the lion in our zoo. If you haven't been to the zoo at Moore Park, I suggest you go over and see it. We got Ira from the MGM lion habitat. Got a big head. I mean, he's really was bred to be a super lion. So the education system in Ventura County is extraordinary, and I just want to cycle back to the Navy and to North and South. So just to cap off the story, you know, I used to like to stand I'd stand quarterdeck watches, I'd stand bridge watches, and when I was on there was a young ensign, and he went to Grove City College in Pennsylvania, and he was looking down at me because I was actually, by that time I was a senior in 3rd class. I would stand these watches, and actually I got my sandwich. He sent me out to get the sandwiches because we ate the 15 sandwiches together because we stood the watches all the time. But he told me, and he was only about 4 or 5 years older than I was. I was 18, he was like 23. He got a bachelor's degree in, where's it? Chemistry. Where are you? Okay, there you are.
Chemical engineering.
Chemical engineering. He had a bachelor's degree in chemistry from Grove City College in Pennsylvania. He was educated and he was proud of it. So he was actually kind of a good counselor. He says, you ought to go to college. So I said, where's the college? He said, there's one over in Ventura. So I thought, well, he tells me what to do. I got my car and I went to Ventura College. That's what I did. And now I'm the Chancellor. So that's the story. I don't know how to tell the story. A lot of stuff happened in between. I'm not going to bore you with the details. I just kept on going because he told me what to do, and I did it. So that's really kind of the story, and the lion kind of caps it off because actually this kind of caps it off. Being in the Navy and being on the Norton Sound, it's pretty obvious from what I'm telling you, changed my life. It was the basis, including the GI Bill. for everything that I was able to do, and I feel good about it. So I'm actively telling Rick what to do as we work on Veterans Affairs. So let me open it up to questions or see if there's anything you want to say. If you want to comment, because a lot of you were on the Norton Sound. If you want to say something about it or whatever, just add it in. Yeah.
Yeah, what was it like going around the Horn, and why did you do that instead of going through the canal?
We actually went through the canal too, but at a different time. That's an interesting thing, but when we fired these missiles, we went around. I have no idea.
Didn't they mention in the movie it was classified, and they were trying to take you, so
Oh,
nobody
yeah,
really noticed?
I think that's probably why. You know, I mean, I knew what we were doing, but I didn't know much about why we were doing. And that's an interesting point, because in the narrative about the history of the Norton Sound, it says that most of the crew that was going on had no idea what was going on, just taking orders and going on. I knew what I was doing for my job. I had no idea of the significance of these things. And we would fire these missiles, you know, we did the same thing with the big missiles that were going up there, but a lot of times we fired against Terrier missiles, and they would fly drones over, and we'd miss them, and the drones would turn toward us, and they'd shoot them out of the air, and they were doing all kinds of things, and it seemed like a lot of fun. You know, so that's basically what I knew. It seemed significant, but had no idea of the significance of either the Norton Sound or the things that we were doing. Oh yeah, Tony says I should tell you that this information was only recently declassified. Yeah.
What was the size of the ship? Give me an idea.
It's 540 feet, I think it was, if my memory is right, and yeah, about 550, 600 feet. Yeah.
What is the derivation of the name Norton Sound?
Norton Sound is a sound up in Upper Alaska, and they just named it after the Norton Sound. Yeah.
After the Norton Sound, what ship did you go on, and when were you discharged?
I was discharged in end of September, October 1958, and I went to see my mother. And actually, it was kind of interesting, because I had gone to Ventura College when I was going to get out. I had just decided to get out, partly because the word was we were going to go to Cambodia. I didn't know where Cambodia was, but I told my mother about Cambodia, and she said, because I was going to stay in the Navy, and she said, they got a lot of bugs in Cambodia, they got a lot of disease, I don't think you should do that. So I said, well, okay, I'm going to resign. So I left, just like everything else that happened. They sent me to Long Beach, and I served 3 months as the separations yeoman in the Naval Station at Long Beach, and so I knew what college was by then, because I had taken the courses at Ventura. So when I got out of the Navy in Long Beach, I just went over and I said, where's the college? And they said, well, there's one over here in Long Beach. So I went to a trailer park there, rented myself a trailer, because I was terrified because of all this education stuff. Went into my little trailer, went to Long Beach City College because it was there, graduated, and here I am.
So where did you meet your wife, Bernie?
That's a good question. No, I met her on a blind date. You have to tell it herself. If she tells the story, it'll be too long. So, a mutual friend introduced us, and then we got married 19 days after we met. Yeah. I should tell them it was Roberta Weintraub that introduced us. I don't know if you know Roberta, because she was from LA. She was the president of the school board there, mutual friend of both of us. We had some friends, they introduced us, and I've been taking orders ever since.
So what year was that?
Other questions or comments? Go ahead.
What is the acronym AVM on the back?
Aviation Missile Ship Number 1.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and that's a very important thing, because it's just that's the symbolism. That USS Norton Sound AVM-1 is the first aviation missile ship in the history of the United States. Yeah.
With the experiences that you shared with everybody today, what would you be telling a 17, 18-year-old youngster today about what they might be looking at from your experiences?
Not only would I be telling them, I tell them every chance I get, because I'm the chancellor. And I'm also a counselor. I did a doctorate in counseling psychology. I was a dean of counseling. My job is to work with students, and I've been doing it most of my adult life in one context or another. And I'm elated to see the veterans. We had a big job to do, helping the veterans get reoriented and on the tracks. And you can give anybody advice, you can be non-directive in them, but I'll tell you, as far as I'm concerned, persistence, grit, tenacity, hard work, going to school. I was after this young man motivated me to go to Ventura. I went to college for 15 years and I never missed a semester. I wasn't full-time all the time because I was working and I was going, but I went and I just kept on going. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I'm just saying tenacity is what it does. And I don't know all of you yet, but I know Vice Chancellor Post, who has the same kind of a story, who slogged his way up and ultimately became a lawyer and graduated from law school and got an MBA and had a 40-plus year career in education and a similar set of experience to the one. So my story is very common, except I'm the chancellor. No, but I think that's significant. I'm being cute, but it's the symbolism. I think is because I had no idea what I was doing. I just knew, and I changed my major 3 or 4 times, until I found my way, which is very, very common to do. So, of all the things you can do to help young people coming in, we're passionately now working on what we call concurrent education, because distance learning and technology, a lot of it came out of all of this. The military, the scientific breakthroughs that have happened have mostly come out of military advancements in trying to do this. That's where all the learning has taken place. And so concurrent education, we can have, in fact, I'm going to talk to Vice Chancellor Post. We've been working with a lot of high school students to let them take college courses at the same time while they're in high school. They can go to school at their high schools and take the other courses online when it helps them to get started. I think we should move it back into middle school and some of the lower schools and make it a whole continuum and do all of these kinds of things. So it's all connected together. Yeah.
When you say they shot the missiles off, and obviously you didn't know about it then, this radiation shield, what was that supposed to do? I don't understand that.
Well, maybe you're a famous chemist, so maybe you can say more, but there's
No, I have no idea.
There's a radiation ring around the Earth that they shot into, and they thought some of it would be protective against other kinds of missiles coming in and protect things. They could use it to deal with the guidance systems or screw them up. It would be important to have control. Don't forget Sputnik went up at that same time too. So they were trying to learn about stationary orbit and radiation and those kinds of things. So this was part of a bigger picture that we know a lot more about today. And they didn't know what they were going to find out. They just launched it up. But if you saw that launch, the missile that was successful got out 300 miles. So that was a pretty significant launch. Anybody want to comment about your time?
What's happened to the ship?
They made soup cans out of it. They decommissioned it, unfortunately. They saved just a few of the log books. You have the anchor, and what's that? Oh, and the bell, I guess you have the bell, and they sent it away. Whoever did it, it was probably somebody in a green eye shade sitting in Washington DC that checked it off in a book that had no concept of the dramatic significance, because it should be sitting in this harbor, just like the Midway is sitting down in San Diego, and it should be a showpiece because it's like the Wright brothers airplane. I mean, the Norton Sound is to miss missiles and space and weaponry in space, as the Wright brothers airplane is to flight. Yeah.
Well, the supply officer used to be on a van, new van. He made commander. He was responsible for pushing to get the tanker, and Bill here had made all the arrangements through all the people. He new van and a sailor from the North and South was responsible for all that, and that's happened.
There's a lot about the Norton Sound online. I mean, if you look it up, I had never really, I looked at, there's a website that's got some stuff and everything, but you start looking at it, it's just full of a lot of historical.
Did you have a mission control tucked away in the bowels of the ship somewhere, monitoring the missiles?
No, we had it on the bridge. We were all set up. The whole bridge was set up. We had the control center up there. We had guys with earphones. They were marking everything. No, it was a very sophisticated activity. It was just like you see on TV. It was a little bit like it was like a ship, but it was like the Starship Enterprise.
Like a Mercury or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe during World War II it was called the AB-11,
Yes.
designated as the AB-11.
Yeah, that's when it was a seaplane tender.
Right.
And what they did was they did that, and then they armed it with a lot of guns because of World War II and the kamikazes, and then it became a fighting ship.
And my grandfather was a postman on board in the Norton Sound during World War II.
Yeah.
And then they called him back for Korea.
Yeah.
So, same ship.
He probably replaced me because I got off.
And you were the chancellor.
Not then.
How long have you been chancellor?
Couple of years, but I've been president and CEO of the main college and the universities that I've done. So it's just, I've been around quite a while now. In fact, but I'm not the most senior guy here. You're the most senior guy here. You're welcome.
I was on from 52, 53.
Yeah, so I was on 56 and 58, so,
It was a good ship.
oh yeah, no, for me, just to cap it off, it was a wonderful experience. I loved it. I loved being in Port Hueneme. I've loved it all my adult life, and I'm very sentimental about the colleges that are here in Ventura, particularly Ventura College, but Moore Park and Oxnard College and the community colleges, because they gave me an opportunity to do what I've been able to do. Yes.
One last question for me at least.
Yeah.
Being an Army guy, I don't understand the concept. I hear a lot of sailors talking about the roughest seas they've ever been in. What was the roughest sea that you had been on?
Well, we went out on this shoot. I mean, there were hurricanes down there. That ship, I mean, it was going one way or the other. You would go down and strap yourself in your bunk. And I got sick a couple of times. I remember one time I went down below, and the ship's doctor was in there. I was in one bunk with a bucket, and he was right across from me with another bucket. So it was pretty scary. I mean, as big as that ship was in the tossing seas, it would really toss, and you would have to strap yourself in. And if you went on deck to try to do anything, you'd have to have ropes and clips and you know, it was about as serious as it gets. I think we were absolutely in hurricanes all up and down when we were out at sea in both the Pacific and the Atlantic. And I did go through the Panama Canal. Yeah.
Did the Norton Sound ever have any casualties during World War II?
I don't know the facts of that, but I'm sure that I would bet that it did, because it had 150 combat missions when it was an armed seaplane tender in World War II, And it got 2 battle stars for the number of kamikaze airplanes that were shot down when they were in there. So I'm sure that is the case. And then a couple of guys just tripped on the deck. One last question, because I will run out of time. Any more? Well, for me, it's been a real pleasure to be here. More than a delight. I appreciate it. I'm connecting with you. I was online this morning, and I made sure my name was listed with the crew members, because they're all listed on the home page of the Norton Sound, and there's a link there. If you're not listed, you just give them your name and your rank and the years that you were in, and they'll put you in. So thank you for having me.
Being that you love Hueneme so much, you can go home and this is the history of Hueneme. And then we have 3 Hueneme stories that were done by people that lived here from 1918 through, and they have some fantastic stories, like the pigs running loose on the beach, and Bread Box George, things that you can laugh at. So I want to give those to you, and you're not a common guy, Bernie. We're really proud of